one thing that really stood out to us was just the natural beauty of the country, the welcome that you get from people. The hospitality was amazing. Your food is incredible. And very much like Australians, you have this innate love of sport. And the one thing that we remember as we toured around Rajasthan was seeing, no matter where we were in any of the beautiful towns that we went, always seeing a game of cricket being played somewhere in the town, somewhere on the oval, somewhere near the hotel. And I think that's why we're so excited about this summer. Having the Indian cricket team come to Australia for an extensive tour, as the Shant referred to, is actually a great tourism opportunity for our country. Because what we do know is that the number of eyeballs that our country is beamed into during that series is very, very significant. And in many ways it puts our country on show to the rest of the world, but importantly to this market. So I'm hoping that Tim Payne and the team behave themselves on the pitch this time around as well. We're really excited about the opportunity that's ahead here in India. Last year we welcomed just over 340,000 Indian visitors to Australia. They spent collectively about $1.4 billion. They're not our biggest market by a number of markets, but what's really, really important is it's our fastest growing major market. In fact, if you look at its growth over the last 10 years, on average, it's been growing at about 10% year on year in terms of spend. That's against the rate of Indian outbound travel, which has been growing at about 8%. We think that by the year 2020, however, we can welcome over 500,000 Indians to our country, spending much more than they currently do. And that for us is the opportunity, and that for us is why this market is so very important. Without question, international visitation to Australia is really tied to two markets. China, of course, which has been a massive success story across many, many countries, but also really importantly, it's this market, India. And we, through the team here in Mumbai, I can assure you will be working very, very hard over the next 5 or so years to take advantage of that opportunity. One of the things that we've launched in September is our UnDiscover campaign. Now, many of us in this room who have been to Australia will think about Australia as your first time visit, about our icons, about the Sydney Harbour Bridge, about the Opera House, about Uluru in the middle of the country, the Great Barrier Reef, the world's largest living organism on the planet, off the coast of tropical North Queensland. But whilst these icons are absolutely amazing, there is so much more to do in our country. There are lavender farms in Tasmania. There are amazing vineyards throughout South Australia and Western Australia. There's Ningaloo Reef on the other side of our country, which plays host to some of the most largest marine life, which won't hurt you, in the whale sharks that swim off Ningaloo Reef. And of course, then you get into these corners of our country that not many people know. So that's why in September of this year, we launched our UnDiscover campaign. And our UnDiscover campaign is really telling that story about those experiences and those attributes of Australia that you might not normally associate with our country. You know, when we do our research each year, we often track perceptions about our country, and sometimes they're a bit challenging. People say there's not a lot to do at night. Some people say that our food isn't as good as what it is. And this campaign is designed to address those perceptions, because we know how important those little things that are off the beaten track are for that repeat visitor. A key part of our partnership with ESPN, Cricinfo, that we're doing ahead of this summer is the UnDiscover content series that Shibani's just been shooting down in Australia. We've picked 5 states which are tied to the Indian tour, so where the test matches will be played. And through her content, her travels throughout Australia, which I'll let Shibani talk about in a little moment, she's put some magnificent content together featuring some famous Australians to be able to take you along that journey and really understand what our UnDiscover campaign and our country is all about. So we're really looking forward to it, Shibani, and thank you so much for being part of this campaign. We're really excited with partnering with ESPNcricinfo. This series will play throughout the summer on digital and social media platforms, and we're really, really excited about taking advantage of the gigantic audience that I know ESPNcricinfo will have. And so again, to the team at ESPNcricinfo, can we say thank you so, so much. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along this morning. We're looking forward to sharing with a little bit more about our UnDiscover campaign with each and every one of you and Shibani's travel through our country. If you haven't been to Australia, please book that ticket and come down here. It's not a long flight. I did it myself yesterday. Look at me, I'm as fresh as a daisy. And what awaits you is some amazing experiences, great food and wine, friendly people, and cosmopolitan cities. And we look forward to seeing each and every one of you in this room down here. It's a condition of us giving you some tea and coffee and bickies this morning. So thanks very much for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the morning. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so as you're aware, and as Josh mentioned, India is going to be in Australia from in this summer, the Australian summer and Indian winter. And we'll be playing 3 T20s, 4 test matches at the Adelaide Oval, Perth at the Optus Stadium, then the Boxing Day test at the MCG, and followed by the New Year's test at the SCG. And then, followed by 3 ODIs, which will be played at the Adelaide Oval, Sydney, and the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So, to shed some more light on this upcoming tour, the ESPNcricinfo platform, and the importance of content marketing in this digital era, may I request Jasdeep Padnu to come up and share some insight on it. Thank you.
How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, I don't know where to start actually, there's so much to say. Thanks, John, for partnering with us. I actually toured with the Indian cricket team. I was part of then ESPN Star Sports with the television crew. I went to Australia in 2003. The series we almost won. That was, I think, Steve Waugh's retirement series. And I remember I was in the stands just watching the game, my work was over. And Steve Waugh, I think, pulled the ball towards square leg or something, and Sachin Tendulkar took his catch, and he wasn't used to this. The entire crowd started booing him, right? It was so that's my enduring memory of of Australia. But I kind of even in 2003, that's 15 years ago, I was amazed at what I discovered in Australia. It was like such an amazing country with a lot of the things that you say about Australia now, and it's evolved since then. But it was really gorgeous, and I had the privilege of being there for 3 months, kind of traveling everywhere, understanding of it. So I have, I'm a great ambassador for this partnership, so I'm glad that that's there. But to come to what Nishant was saying about content in the digital age, right? I mean, it's for everyone in content. I've been in television, a long time, really old. So it's kind of seen a bunch of things happen in television, and now we're seeing this whole paradigm shift in how digital content is being produced, and it's very different from television, right? And it's very exciting actually for all of us. The good thing is that ESPNcricinfo, and I don't know how many of you would know this, has been around for 25 years in the digital world, right? It's older than Google, it's older than Amazon, it's older than a lot of the big internet companies. And I think when it first started, correct me if I'm wrong, Akshay, but it started as a bulletin board service to kind of give out scores, and then it kind of just grew. It's got a fantastic global audience now, so it helps people keep up with their cricket. And I remember, even as a television producer, I would have ESPNcricinfo, at the time just Cricinfo, up on my computer, and then we produce our own orders and kind of make shows based on that knowledge and information and statistics and all that. So that strength that lies with ESPNcricinfo remains, and it's a fantastic legacy, the credibility. So any of you who are cricket fans would know that. I don't need to kind of sell the idea. But the thing is that sports coverage is evolving, and more than 50% of the content on digital in sports is actually not about the analysis or the statistics of the sport, it's surround content. And that's why we saw this as a brilliant opportunity. It's not just something that I see as a commercial opportunity or just a partnership that helps both of us. It's just, for me, as primarily a content person, I saw it as a content opportunity to increase the coverage for fans. So if you're a fan and you're going to see the Indian team go to Australia, you want to know not just about the cricket field and what happens. Of course, you do want to know about that, but you also want to know about the ambience, the challenges there, what the crowd is like, what people are going to do there, what Shikhar Dhawan is going to get up to if he makes it to Australia, what he's going to get up to when he's when he's not playing, right? Or what happens? How do people celebrate? So all of this stuff actually is becoming a big part of content, whether content creators like it or not, because now there's Twitter, Instagram, all of that stuff, and people post their videos, and fans consume it directly. But also, I think platforms like us, we have a great, exciting job because we have to kind of collate all of that coverage and combine it with our cricket coverage. So it's integrated as this fantastic, kind of overall understanding of what's going on in Australia during the entire tour. And we found that a lot of people really enjoy that kind of coverage. So for me, that's really the exciting opportunity here. And we've already started. So when Shibani went over and kind of shot this stuff, and of course there are all these beautiful undiscovered elements of Australia for tourists, but she also met with cricketers, and we had cricket questions for them about what's going to happen in the series and a whole bunch of things. And that's really the joy of kind of consuming cricket and sport in the digital format. On television, it's linear, and you get to see the game, of course, but you don't get a whole sense of what's going on in short bits and pieces and exciting formats and quick 90 seconds, just experiences, ambience around what's happening, expert understanding from different quarters. What Brad Hogg, earlier we were talking, Shibani and I, what Brad Hogg says about the subject is very different from what Brad Hodge will say about the subject. And so that's that's the kind of stuff that we give consumers the choice of looking at the content. The other good thing about this partnership is it's honestly I think it's one of the most natural partnerships because it's very clear that the audience that ESPNcricinfo has is a very discerning audience with high disposable incomes, and that's something that Akshay tries to capitalize on all the time. And the thing is, rightly so, because it's the kind of audience that would travel to Australia, right? It's the kind of audience that wants new experiences, wants to explore undiscovered places, and the match is fantastic. And I think the kind of reach that we have as a global platform, apart from just India, we're also present in lots of other cricket markets where we are the foremost website or app, and that's something that reach is something that's very, very productive, because we could, all our content goes out to all these cricket fans, and they're also discerning cricket fans who want other experiences in life. So it's something that's a natural fit. And essentially that's why I'm kind of enjoying this entire, I've had, a look at just the initial pieces of content that we've got from there. Very, very excited. And like I said, I think it's going to add so much value to our coverage of the tour when it comes around. And it's in fact giving us ideas about how we should do things in the Australia tour. But I'm not going to take up too much time because then, soon it's the turn of someone to come up here who's much better at doing this speaking thing before the camera and before people than me. But I think Nishant would like to introduce a video before that, and so thanks, and we'll take questions later. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jasdeep. I mean, just to highlight what you said, and we are definitely ticking those three boxes when it comes to digital marketing and content marketing. First being the fact that we have to be mobile first. Second being the fact that content has to be the king, and if it's narrated in a nice, engaging, emotive, storytelling format, I guess we have a clear winner, and that's what these videos and this entire series is going to turn out to be. I would also like to thank the entire ESPN team, the crew who traveled to Australia as a part of this entire project, and Duke, Ranganathan, Siddharth, Rituraj, Vasan, and Azima have done a fantastic job. I mean, traveling and Tracy, of course, and traveling on an itinerary planned by Tourism Australia is never really easy, because we're trying to pack in a lot of things when such projects are executed. All right. So, if there's one word to describe our next speaker, and that's Shibani, that word would be maybe versatility or multi-talented, because she's a person who can do anything. She's an actor, she's a singer, she's a model, she's a presenter. She ran a band called D Major with her three sisters. But most importantly, I mean, she's an extremely warm, welcoming, and an inviting person and a wonderful human being. And then I realized that when I first met her in Sydney just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we were interacting with each other on WhatsApp and messages and all before that, but coincidentally, I mean, it had to be Sydney, where she spent almost 14 years of her life, that we first met. And she had invited the entire ESPN crew over dinner at a residence. And the parents who live in the King's Grove area of Sydney had prepared a delicious Australian meal for the entire crew, including some of the chicken pies and sausage rolls and the lamingtons. So thank you so much for hosting us. How you know, I don't think anyone gets invited for a dinner on your first visit with someone. So really grateful to that for that, Shibani. So Shibani traveled across 5 states of Australia over almost 16 days. And it's often said that what happens on the tour stays on the tour. But not in this particular case. We want her to tell us everything that happened on the tour. But before that, let's play a short video that quickly summarizes her entire experience in Australia, and then we'll have Shibani up over to share her experiences with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Shibani Dandekar. Tell us everything that you've done on your 15-day tour.
Oh, okay, I don't know where to begin. Firstly, thank you all so much for being here. It was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. As you all know, I grew up in Australia. I spent most of my life there. But I think that in the last 15 days, I've seen more of Australia than I ever had growing up there. And that's thanks to, obviously, Australian tourism and ESPNcricinfo. Because, I mean, when they call you up and say, you know, you want to go travel to Australia for 15 days and create content that's never been created in this kind of format before, I mean, it was something that was really exciting for me because I didn't really have to stand in front of a camera and deliver link after link after link. I just got to go and have a great time and rediscover a country that I had grown up in, and it was an incredible experience. So we started in Perth. From there we went to Melbourne, then to Adelaide, then home to Sydney, and then finally Brisbane. So it was honestly such a magical time because we did so much. I mean, this is just, what, a minute of, you know, 15 days worth of footage. So I really can't wait for everybody to see this because it's something that was created so organically, and everything that you see has just happened. There is nothing staged, there is nothing scripted. It was literally 3 cameras in my face for 15 days, sound always on, unfortunately. But it was really a lot of fun.
Great. So this campaign is all about undiscovering Australia. So take us through those undiscovered moments in the top 5 cities that you visited. So starting off with Perth.
So Perth, we had an incredible chopper ride around Fremantle, from where you could see just spectacular views of beaches, of the Optus Stadium. Brad Hogg and I drove around and rode around in this chopper, and it was so beautiful just to get this, you know, first-hand view of what this incredible city looks like. We then went to Rottnest Island, that consists of about 63 bays. So what we did was we hopped on bikes. When I say we, myself and the tour guide, we hopped on bicycles, and you can actually ride around the entire island in an hour and a half. So we rode on bicycles, and you would drive down these streets, and suddenly you would see these beautiful little bays, like they're tucked away almost. And they're really small. So you hop off your bicycle, you go in for a swim, you lay down for a little bit, you get on your cycle, and you go around to the next one. And there's 63 of them. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see all 63 because the time didn't permit. But I mean, these are just the incredible things that you can do. We managed to find quokkas. The island is filled with about 10,000 quokkas, and you can take selfies with them. I don't know if you guys got an idea of what the quokkas look like, but that was something else you could do. We rode segways. So we were riding segways around the island. I mean, it was just, there were moments where I had to remind myself that I was working. You know, it was like being paid to go on a holiday. It was amazing. That was Perth. That was just one day.
All right.
You know?
We moved to South Australia?
South Australia. So in South Australia, we went to Kangaroo Island, and it was a completely different experience from Perth. So we took this little plane to Kangaroo Island, And Tim, our tour guide, picked us up, threw us in his van, and off we went. And it was a proper bush experience. So we said to him, can we, we've been flying all morning, can we get a cup of coffee? So he said, I'm going to take you to the best coffee shop that this island has. When you're driving, there's nothing around but like bushes and trees and suddenly maybe a kangaroo and trying to figure out where this coffee shop is. He parks his van on the side of the road, pulls out coffee that he has made, sets up a little tent, and gives us Anzac cookies, which are official Australian biscuits. And it was amazing. So we're just sitting there enjoying nature and it was cold, having this hot cup of coffee and eating these cookies. And it was just like a goosebump moment. We were having such a great time. He also made us a bush lunch. So we had packed everything in his van, where this big tent was set up with this barbecue, and he made us fish and potatoes and salad. And just where we were having lunch, there were like wild kangaroos just like, hopping around. It was amazing. It was just like something that you don't normally do or see. And that was just Kangaroo Island.
All right, tell us about the experience at the MCG where you were seen dancing on Bollywood's number.
All right, well so the whole dancing thing, it kind of started by accident, because when I was in Perth, Trent, who was flying our chopper, I, as usual, am on Instagram playing music and dancing, and so when I started playing the music and recording this video, Trent started bopping his head. So then Brad Hogg started bopping his head. So then I started dancing as well, and I thought, oh, this might be a thing. We might have to do this everywhere we go. So when we got to Melbourne, I said to Hodge, you have to dance, so Brad Hogg and Brad Hodge have this like friendship rivalry that's happening. So anything that Brad Hogg does, Brad Hodge has to do better. So when he saw the video, he was like, right, let's do this. So in the MCG, we decided to do a little Bollywood number. And that continued as we traveled through the rest of Australia as well, except for Sean Tate, who refused to dance, but he did sing for us.
What happened in New South Wales?
New South Wales, that was a really interesting experience for me because that's where I grew up. And it was the first time that I'd actually sailed a boat on the harbour. Something that I'd never done when I was growing up there. I've spent years dancing inside the Opera House. I've been to see the Harbour Bridge many times, but it's something that I never got to do on water. I went to Bondi Beach, which I spent summers growing up on Bondi Beach, but I'd never surfed before. So Ed Cowan gave me surfing lessons, which I was terrible at, I may add. Never got up on the board once. But it was such a great way to rediscover where I had grown up and do things that I had actually never done in Sydney before. Even though I'd been to those places, I'd never done those things.
What happened in Brisbane and Tangalooma?
So Tangalooma was amazing. We got to feed dolphins. So wild dolphins would come and swim out at a particular time, and they would be swimming right at your feet, and you could feed them. It was just like a heart-wrenching moment. It was so beautiful. We went sand tobogganing, as you saw, Andy Bickle and I. We went snorkeling, and it's one of those things where when you're on the boat and you see the water, it's beautiful, it looks amazing. The second you stick your head even this much in the water, it is filled with all different kinds of fish, and they're swimming all around. The views I can't even describe. When you see the content that we've created, you'll get an idea of just how magical this country is.
Okay, you love adventure.
I love adventure.
So tell us one adventure activity that you would love to participate in Australia, Western Australia.
Oh, there's so much that I would like to do. I went go-karting, which I thought was incredible. I went snorkeling. I attempted surfing, wasn't quite successful at that. Sand tobogganing, of course, which was amazing. And what else did I do?
Tell us about the food and wine experiences in Australia.
So this is one of the things that I think is thanks to MasterChef Australia, we now get a little bit of an idea as to how good the food in Australia is, because they're constantly talking about the produce and the fresh food. But when you go to Australia, you cannot have a bad meal, wherever you are. Because the produce, the quality of the meat, the quality of the fruit and vegetables is so amazing, it's so fresh. And there are options for everybody and anybody, whether you're a vegan, whether you're a vegetarian, whether you are a meat lover, there is food for everybody. And I don't think, literally by the end of it, I think the crew had to you know, go on a diet afterwards because we were just so well fed, and we had eaten some of the best food we've ever eaten in our lives. I don't think we had a bad meal while we were there.
Isn't it the culinary capital of the world?
I think it should be, yeah. I think it's one of those things that, you know, people aren't, Australia's maybe not somewhere that you think of when you think good food, but you go there on a holiday and guaranteed you won't have a bad meal.
Okay. We are entering the wedding season in India, and Australia is one of the most sought after honeymoon destinations. So what are the top 3 things that you would recommend lovebirds to do once they are in Australia?
Are you asking me to pick 3?
You can go for 10.
You know, I wish I could say, look, if anyone was to do a 15-day holiday or even a 5-day holiday and cover even half of what we covered, you will have the time of your life. You know, we were feeding kangaroos, we were holding koalas, we were feeding dolphins, we were holding snakes, we were go-karting, we were surfing. We went on a jet boat. The jet boat was, I mean, it was life. Brad Hogg and I took this jet boat around Perth. Does everybody know what a jet boat is? Yes? It's one of the, I mean, you just go fast and the guy just keeps stopping the boat and water splashes in. I mean, it's just like, it was one of the most adrenaline pumping things that we could have done. We were just screaming and he was playing rock music on the boat, and it was just how it should be. It was just such an epic moment. That was probably one of my favorite moments in the entire trip. But as a honeymoon destination, if you and your partner are going to go there and enjoy all of these experiences, you'll have the time of your life. Because it's not just about laying on a beach, and it's not just about sightseeing, it's about actually getting involved. I think one of the things that people need to know and understand about Australia is that everything you do is outside. You know, it's such a, culturally, when you live in Australia or when you grow up in Australia, we're always outside, whether you're playing a sport or whether you're doing some sort of activity. And that changes as you grow up. You know, your interest levels change as you go up. But it is a country that is based on doing things outdoors, and I think that that's what people really need to experience.
That's great. You spent almost 14 years in Australia. What are your favorite Australian slangs that you use?
So when we first got there, the first day, Siddharth, our cameraman, was like, why don't you look into the camera and say, "You ripper." I was like, wow, Sid, you've been here for 2 seconds and you've already learned how to speak Australian. Good day, I think, is just one of the, you know, one of the most common ones. But I think if you spend even 10 minutes with Brad Hogg, you will be Australian very fast. As an Australian, it was difficult for me to understand what he was saying half the time. And yeah, it was really fun. The cricketers were a lot of fun. And they're an example of what Australian people are all about, you know? Everywhere we went, whether it was Trent, who rode our chopper in Perth, whether it was Tim, who took us through Kangaroo Island, whether it was George, who took us on a sailboat in Sydney Harbour, whether it was Ed, who took us on a boat ride in Perth. You remember people's names and you remember people along the way because after spending 5 minutes with them, you feel like you've known them your entire life. And that's just the Australian way. People are so friendly, including our cricketers, who were just such great sports. They wanted to have fun, they wanted to get involved. They had a lot to say about the India-Australian series, which I'm not telling, but it was, I think John, you and I are alone because all 5 of them were supporting India, strangely enough. Yeah.
All right, let's do this quick rapid fire, and you've got to tell us the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of UnDiscover.
Okay.
What's the first thing that, or the destination that's yet to be discovered by you in Australia?
Ayers Rock.
All right.
Which I actually haven't been to, considering that I've been there for so many years.
Okay. The Great Barrier Reef.
Oh, spectacular.
Your favorite Australian cricketer?
Shane Warne. Old is gold. Love him.
Your favorite Indian cricketer?
Oh, is this cricket skills or just personality?
Both, maybe. Indeed.
Okay, well, okay, so Shane Warne in terms of personality. In terms of skill?
Shane Warne.
Yeah, I think Shane Warne, yeah. Yeah, he's alright. Pretty good.
And your favorite Indian cricketer? Skills and talent.
And personality. Personality, I'd have to say Ashish Nehra because he is super funny. In terms of talent, I'm going to go with Hardik Pandya. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. And finally, one word for Australia.
Magic. Absolute magic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And may I request all our speakers to come up, please, so that we could take questions from the audience. Jasdeep, Akshay, Joss, come on up. Any questions? Or maybe they want to have some one-on-ones. Yeah? All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll let the PR team take charge of this. And once again, thanks ESPN, thanks Joss, and thanks a lot Shibani for this for sharing this with us. I feel that tourism is all about developing the strong people-to-people links, and when you have advocates and ambassadors like you, it'll help us achieve a half a million mark pretty soon.
Yeah, just to add to that, I want to thank obviously Australian Tourism and ESPNcricinfo for this incredible opportunity, and just just to reiterate one more time, the content that you're going to see during the India-Australia series, it's going to give you a true idea of how organic and how incredible this experience was. This is probably the best job I've ever had in my life. And Australia is somewhere that I believe people really need to go and visit. There is so much to do there, and I think that Indians will truly love being there on holiday. There's so much to see, there's so much to do, there's so much to eat. So, honestly, I'm being very serious when I say please go. You really, really love it.
Actually, there is one question, sorry.
Sure.
Sport is a great way of linking people together because it breaks all boundaries in terms of language and everything. Are there any other sport, well, cricket is an obvious choice and it has been for so many decades, but are you looking at any other sports, in a way of creating a partnership between India and Australia?
Look, cricket's the most obvious one at this point. It's a really good question. Believe it or not, in China we've used Australian rules football, which is very much, if cricket is our national sport, Australian rules is the other national sport. So we've used Australian rules football in China, and then we promoted the Commonwealth Games here last year, which is obviously, the linkage is more about being part of the Commonwealth. But we see sport as being a really important way of, as you say, increasing that people-to-people connection. But also with the different events and tours that take place during the course of the year, they're also really big drivers of visitation as well. So I know that Australian Rules Football League in the AFL in Australia are actually looking at India as a potential market to bring a game to, which we'd be quite excited in partnering with them on. And of course, there's this little tennis tournament we have every January called the Australian Open. We use that extensively in China. Spring Racing Carnival throughout Southeast Asia as well. So.
All right. If there are no further questions, let's move on to one-on-ones. And before that, we'll also take a quick photo against that background that we created. Thank you very much, everyone.
Please subscribe to Viral Bollywood.
Please like, share and subscribe to Viral Bollywood.
सब्सक्राइब कीजिए.
Please subscribe.